Well, hello. Um, my time is 10:30 in the morning, and it has warmed up a few degrees from the 9 degrees Fahrenheit that I awakened to, and it's clear up to 13 at this point. We have about 3, 4 inches of snow on the ground, and as I was coming in to do this, I happened to look out my window, and I found out that someone in our neighborhood has shoveled our sidewalks. That's the kind of folks that live in this part of the community. And I'm going to spend some time trying to find out who that was, but it's just a wonderful gift for us to have that. And it's the kind of people that I find it, and not just in this neighborhood, but in the world in which I live. I've been looking through some of the comments that were registered earlier about what were some of the things that you would like to gain out of the training or out of these few minutes that we have together. And I just want you to know that these sessions are really just my being in conversation with you a bit and giving you some clues. It's not this formal kind of presentation, but I do want to create some steps for you to anticipate taking as you deal with the issue of the internal critic. Some people have this voice inside them that keeps telling them how wrong they are, how stupid they are, how ugly they are, whatever it is, whatever that just kind of drives them crazy, and well, not literally, but basically uh, kind of keeps them or prevents them from becoming and doing the kinds of things that they really want to become and do. And so I wanted to tell you, and it's not really totally unlike that voice that some people hear that gives them this great skill to worry about this and that and everything. And if you were like my mother uh, either worried about everything or was worried about the fact that she wasn't worried about something. She knew she should be, but she didn't know what it was because she thought it was just sort of her thing. That's what she does best is worry. So now we've got this, want to deal with this voice that's an internal voice that is our super critic. And I wanted to just invite you for a moment to, if you have one of those, um, if you don't have one of those, don't create it. But if you have one of those, I want you to take just a moment to get in touch with that voice and hear uh, some of the context, some of the things that it might say to you on a consistent or persistent way. And then what I'm interested in is not what it's saying. I want to know, from where is it coming? I mean, obviously it's coming from inside, but where do you hear it? Does it appear to be or sound to be like it's coming from one side or the other? Is it close or far? And by the way, whose voice is it? I mean, is it a voice that you recognize from your past? Is it your voice or is it somebody else's voice? Does it particularly signify anything specific? If it is, I just want you to recognize, from where does it come? Where do you experience it? Is it a voice that you recognize? What's the tone? Is it demanding and commanding? Is it whining, complaining, something else? What happens if the volume gets a bit louder or lower? We we talked about this in terms of when we were worrying about what happens when you actually turn the volume down or turn it up. When you move the speaker across the room, make it further away or closer. Give you a moment to just examine that stuff. Take what time you need to just become aware of it. From where does it come? Whose voice? What's the tone and volume? One of the presuppositions of NLP is that every behavior has some positive intent. So I'm really curious, and I'd like for you to become curious about this voice and what does it want for you? I mean, we can almost always generalize and say, well, it wants to protect, you know, but what specifically? You know, protect is a broad concept. What specifically does it want to do for you? And be assured, and you can assure the voice that we have no intention of taking its job away or of eliminating it. What we're interested in is finding out what its intent is and seeing if it would, finding out how it could do that even better than it does right now without the distress that it might be creating. And you might even just ask that question. Okay, what's the intent? And would it be willing to get with that creative part of yourself to find a better, more effective, and certainly a more comfortable way of doing it? I had a client who had an internal voice, the internal critic that was just going on, and it was relentless. But it didn't know why. The voice didn't really know why it was doing what it was doing. It just knew that that's what it was supposed to do. It didn't have any particular outcome. So what that person did, and we got this agreement with that internal voice, and we gave it permission to be as critical as it wanted to be. But it had to be critical in the tone of Donald Duck. Now, that may seem kind of strange when you think about it on the rational part. But the fact that the voice didn't know what it was there for, but was going to continue to do it, let's do it in a way that didn't cause any stress. And listening to Donald Duck rattle on as loud and as fast as whatever it wanted to changed the experience so that the woman, the client, was no longer stuck and wasn't prohibited or prevented from going about doing the things that she wanted to do. Another client whose critical voice showed up most distinctly, most clearly, and most frequently when it was time to go to bed and going to sleep. And the client had difficulty getting to sleep because this critical voice just kept going on about all the stupid stuff they did all day long and how stupid tomorrow was going to be, etc. Sometimes it's not stupid, how ugly, how whatever, how much of a weakling you are, or how overbearing you are, whatever it might be. But this voice was prohibiting this client from getting the quality sleep that they required. And again, it didn't seem to be serving any particular purpose. And we gave the voice the freedom to say whatever it wanted, but it had to do it very slowly. And as it rattled on very slowly, it allowed the client to get bored enough to go to sleep. It's very interesting, and how our brain, and I say interesting in the fact that we don't always have, what I want to say, complete cognitive understanding of how the brain changes and how it can learn to do new things to accomplish better, more desirable outcomes, more a desirable life. But it can do that if we do it with consent and intentionality. Think about that. So the critical voice has an intention, or had, I should say this differently, it had an intention when it was first brought into being. And now it may have forgotten that intention and doesn't really know why. It was very interesting in the years that I was working with people who, for example, who were smokers and wanted to become non-smokers. And the positive intention of the part that was responsible for their smoking was its positive intentions started when they were very, very young. And it was in order to fit in with the group, with the crowd, with the kids or the people with whom they were hanging out. They wanted to fit in. Well, by the 2000s, it wasn't the people who smoked that fit in. It was the people who didn't smoke that fit in. And that the people who smoked were sort of the outliers, the ones that sort of weren't conforming with this, the sociology, the community in which they found themselves. So we use that truth and that understanding as a tool for making them become a non-smoker. Became more effective because the part that wanted to fit in now had to find a new way of fitting in. And so this critical voice that some of us have may have have forgotten what its original intention was. But even if it knows what its original intention was and it still wants to perform that, maybe it's time to find a new way and a better way. I always want to say, we don't want to eliminate a part. We just want to make it help it do what it wants to do in a more effective, beneficial, way, and to eliminate the kind of conflict and inner struggle that's going on. Even the question about it, would it be willing to continue to serve that intent in a better way, can make a change. But to understand about it. See, I've talked about this internal conflict, and that's what's going on with this business about it. A critic, an internal critic. There's this conflict. It wants something good for him, but it's, it's also at the same time an irritant, and frequently gets in the way. Keeps me from taking the next step. So let me invite you to spend some time experimenting with this concept. If you have this critical spirit, this critical voice within you, experiment with helping it change tone, location, volume, but also asking it to find a new way to accomplish its purpose. Well, I hope this conversation gives you, has been a benefit to you and gives you some ideas about what you might do to, experience your day-to-day living better, have a better outcome without losing any of the benefits, but gaining the improved quality of life. So we'll be talking to you again soon about another topic, and really looking forward to those of you that are going to be taking some training with me. Have a great day, and as I say, have a happy forever. We'll talk to you later.